So on Fox, there's an article that's reporting on Trump and how he ripped the witch hunt in response to the reports of the obstruction probe by Bob Mueller. So basically, Bob Mueller decided that he's going to start investigating obstruction of justice. And we already saw that he was going to start investigating proof of financial crimes, which that's not a part of. You were appointed to investigate Russia. Now you're investigating financial crimes. So what's Mueller even doing here? I'm going to get into that. Let's just get into the article first, right? So it says here, President Trump took to Twitter Thursday morning to claim he's caught up in a witch hunt led by bad and conflicted people following reports that special counsel Robert Mueller is investigating him for obstruction of justice. He says, they made up a phony collusion with the Russian story, found zero proof, so now they go for obstruction of justice on the phony story. Nice. Trump tweeted out early on Thursday. So what he's saying is completely true. They found zero evidence, so they're going to move on to obstruction of justice. Notice how, it's just such a mess. This whole thing is such a mess. It started off with interference, and then they never ever proved that, so they moved on to collusion, and they never ever proved that, so now they're moving on to obstruction. They've taken like 3 steps, even though they haven't shown any evidence for anything at all. It's so ridiculous. How are you gonna go and investigate collusion and obstruction when you can't even prove that there was a crime in the first place? How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna, like, if you're like trying to get to the bottom of like a criminal case, like how are you gonna, if there's like a murder and you can't prove that the murder even happened, then how are you going to charge someone for the murder if you can't even prove that there was a murder? What do you mean? There's nothing. All they say is first their claim was, oh, they hacked the DNC emails and gave them to WikiLeaks. And then we were like, okay, how do you prove that? And they said, okay, moving on. So they actually hacked the election directly. And then we said, how do you prove that? And then they said, moving on. They actually tried to hack the French election too. And then we asked them, how do you prove that? And they went, we don't, moving on. They also tried to hack local elections. So even your mayor and your local representative, they might be Russian puppets as well. And then we asked them, how do you prove that? And they said, moving on. And then Trump colluded with Russia because they met with his people met with Russian ambassadors and stuff, and they have business interests, collusion. And then we asked them, okay, where's your concrete evidence? How do you prove that? And they went, okay, moving on. Obstruction of justice. He obstructed justice because he told Comey that he hoped that he would let go of Flynn. So that's all they do. They deflect and they just move on. They don't feel any need to prove anything. They say it over and over again. They say, oh, we can't disclose the information at the moment. They make it sound like they will at a later date. Okay, you've been saying that for a long time now. According to James Comey, this has been going on for 2 years, and you've still not given a shred of evidence whatsoever. So it's just such a phony story. It's just there's so much spin. There's so much just disgusting lies that are taking place. So let's go ahead and move on to the article. It says here that he later added, "You are witnessing the single greatest witch hunt in American political history, led by some very bad and conflicted people. Hashtag Make America Great Again." It said investigators are also reportedly looking for proof of possible financial crimes committed by Trump associates. Okay, so what is Mueller's job? What is he investigating? Is he investigating Russia? Or is he investigating now financial crimes? Where's the focus? Wasn't the whole point of Mueller supposed to be to investigate Russia? And first they said it was to investigate Russia interference. But then he started to investigate collusion and obstruction, and now financial crimes by Trump associates. So we've gone from investigating a foreign government trying to meddle in an election to investigating the president's his friends for financial crimes. How did we get from that point to the other point? How did we get from there to there? So, at first I was pretty. When I heard of Muller and the special counsel, I was originally the one to say, oh, just let him do his thing and let him find out there's nothing there, and then that'll just be the end of that. But now, with all these stories coming out about how he has his team is filled up with Democrat partisans who've been donating to Democrats for years and years and years, have donated thousands of dollars. They're all Democrats, and that now he's looking into financial crimes by Trump associates, even though he was meant to be investigating Russian interference, and he's investigating obstruction of justice, which is a claim that there is no backing for. James Comey, he gave no evidence for that whatsoever when he tried to say that in his testimony. He didn't believe that there was any attempt to obstruct justice, but that there was a directive, because apparently Trump hoped that he would let go of Flynn. But that's a hope. That's not a directive. How does that? And if it's a directive, how does that not obstruction of justice? You know why he said that? He said that because if he did believe that it was obstruction of justice, that actually would have meant that he had actually broken the law. Because by law, he would have been required to report that. But he never did. Instead, he waited until he was fired, and then leaked some memos and said, oh, see, he directed me, but it wasn't obstruction of justice. Because if it was actually obstruction of justice, then he would have committed a crime. If he believed that it was, he would have been committing a crime, because he was supposed to have reported that, and he never reported it. So James Comey, he's got no actual claims. He's just like a disgruntled employee who's trying to take down his boss by any means necessary. And you have all these Democrats saying, "Oh, James Comey," they're all trusting him so much, even though they were all for him being fired or him resigning. They were all saying, "Oh, Comey's got to go," and then Comey left because he was fired, and suddenly now he's an American hero. He's an American hero. He's an American icon. We need more people like you, Mr. Comey. They did a total 180, and now they're treating him like some kind of god. Like whatever he says is golden, even though he's caught in some kind of lie right now. No matter what the reason is, then he's lying in some way or another. Because either he did believe that there was obstruction of justice, but he didn't report it to anybody. He didn't report that like he was supposed to, like he was legally required to. So it was either that, or he does believe that there was obstruction of justice, but he's just not saying it. He either believes it, which would mean that he broke the law, or he doesn't believe it, which would mean that, well, he's just saying things just to say things and just to try to make the Trump look bad. So, is he a criminal, or is he just a disgruntled old employee who's trying to take down his boss by, smearing him in public? Whatever your answer is, it's not good for James Comey. So, the idea that James Comey is like some kind of reliable source on this is ridiculous, because he's lying about something. He's lying about something. He's either lying about believing it or lying about not believing it. And in either case, it's not good for him. And it also says here that Mueller's office declined to comment. Now that's not too unusual, but it is pretty telling, because this whole, between Mueller and between all of the intelligence councils that have been investigating this, they've been so secretive. They tell us nothing. They don't give us anything. They don't give us anything to go off of. That's the thing about this whole thing, is that they're always so secretive. They don't tell us anything. Where's the transparency? How are we going to believe this? How are we supposed to believe all of this talk about Russia and collusion and obstruction when you're being so secretive all the time? You don't tell us anything. And the media, whatever they say, they eat it all up, the media. Whatever they say about Russia, they eat everything up. When they said that, oh yeah, they tried to hack local elections, now we have articles saying, oh my god, Maybe they're going to try and hack the congressional elections going on in Georgia. Maybe they're going to try and hack the next election. Maybe they're going to try and hack everything else. And what if they're trying to hack our military? What if they're trying to hack every country in the world? It's all speculation. And then they report like, oh man, Russia hacked local elections, as if that's fact. As if it's not just speculation, because it is speculation, because there's no proof. There's never been any proof. And they just report on that as if it's like known, like proven facts that just everyone agrees on. They don't even give the other side. They don't even give the side of, hey, there's no evidence, maybe we need to not like jump to conclusions all the time. How funny is it that whenever there's a terror attack, and whenever there's an attack like the one that happened yesterday, everyone on the left, they always say, oh, we don't know if it was terrorism, we don't know the motivation, we need to not jump to conclusions. When it comes to this, they declared Trump guilty in like summer last year. They declared him guilty like a year ago, back when he said, like, during one of the debates, like, oh yeah, Putin's a good leader. He said that, and immediately they declared that he was guilty. They had their minds set, oh yeah, he's guilty because he said Putin's a good guy. They used that as in their attack ads, and they used that as their talking points against him. And they used it the entire campaign, and then as soon as he took office, they started using that as a political tool to try and take him down. It was a talking point at first, and now it's a political tool that they're using. And it's so disgusting the way they're doing it. It's just there's no facts. It's all secretive. There's nothing factual. There's nothing concrete. There's nothing solid about anything. It's all a total sham and a total lie. So now that I've seen everything that's come out about Mueller, I'm starting to change my opinion, and I'm starting to believe that he should be fired. Because at first I didn't know about any of the stuff that he was up to, and about how he had Democrats on his team, about how he's hiring all these new lawyers, how he's looking into totally unproven claims, baseless claims. Now that I see all this, I'm changing my mind, and I'm starting to say, you know what? Maybe Mueller is a little bit sketchy, and he's also reportedly close with Comey. They're kind of like buddy. So I can't confirm that, but if it is true, then that would be enough. That would be enough to get him fired. But even if that's not there's still a pretty strong case to be made that this guy is partisan. This guy should not be handling this whole thing with Russia. He should be nowhere near it. Now, I'm not gonna come out and say that directly just yet. I gotta think it over a little bit. I gotta see what comes out. But right now, in terms of Mueller, it looks like we have yet another partisan hack looking into so-called Russian hacking and collusion. And that's just not a good thing. And we may have to consider firing Mueller at some point if we want this to be fair, and we want to get away from the whole partisan mess that is the whole Russia so-called investigation.